What if Anakin told Obi Wan about Darth Plagueis the Wise? Let's start the story during Revenge of the Sith. Anakin had just heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise from Palpatine, in an attempt to lure the Chosen One towards the Sith, giving him the knowledge that there's a Force ability, the power to save anyone's life that can be learned, the power he needs to save Padme. However, there's one caveat: this power cannot be taught to a Jedi. After Anakin heard the tale of Plagueis, he went to the Jedi Temple to see if he could find any mention of Plagueis inside the archives, but there was no mention of such a Sith. Maybe the knowledge is hidden inside the restricted section, the area he would be allowed in if the council made him a master the day before, when he was permitted a seat on the council. He was still furious about the fact, and his anger and fear began to rise until he saw Obi Wan walking towards him. Also wandering the halls late that night, he greets Kenobi, who asks Anakin what brought him to the temple. Anakin begins to think of what lie he will tell, but realizes he can use Obi Wan to his advantage.
Master, can I ask a favor? Of course, Anakin. What is it?
And Anakin goes on to ask his master whether he can do a data search in the restricted section of the archives for any mention of a Darth Plagueis.
Plagueis. I've never heard of such a Sith. Is there any reason for this request, Anakin?
Skywalker knew his master could see right through him, but he couldn't tell him the truth, not yet.
Call it simple curiosity. Will you do it?
Kenobi was hesitant as he studied Anakin's expression.
I'll see what I can find, but I shouldn't be doing this. You know Anakin. Of course. Thank you, Master.
Anakin waited outside whilst 30 minutes passed as he looked at the entrance to the archives to see Obi-Wan exit. He jolted up, eager to hear the truth he had found. He'd hoped the archives would contain details of Plagueis' power to save the ones he cared about from death, but he'd been severely mistaken.
I'm sorry, Anakin. I've searched all the available records. There was no mention of a Plagueis.
Disappointment struck on Anakin's face, quickly swallowed by fear, as he realized he was losing options for saving Padme.
Anakin, can I ask why you have an interest in Plagueis? What have you learned about him, and where?
And Anakin tells him he merely heard the tale of Plagueis, the Sith Lord who could save the ones he cared about from dying.
I've never heard of this Sith. From whom did you hear this? Palpatine. He brought it up. We were discussing General Grievous.
Kenobi's brow hardened as he started to put the pieces together.
Anakin, I can sense distress coming off of you. The stench is stronger than a bantha stew. Why do you care about Plagueis? You don't mean to learn his power.
The condescending nature of Obi-Wan's tone annoyed Anakin.
Of course I do. I don't just want to learn it, I need to. Why, Anakin? Who must you save? Me? Ahsoka? The entire Jedi Order?
Anakin wanted to scream. No, it was none of them. It was someone even more important.
Is it Padme? Anakin?
Anakin's eyes shot up and locked with Obi-Wan's, his tongue tied and too stunned to speak.
It's okay, Anakin. I've always known the truth, but never brought it up for your sake, and hers. But the distress you're under because of this is too great. Please tell me what's going on.
Anakin paused, thinking of his next move. Obi-Wan knew, and he was okay with it. He didn't berate Anakin for his relationship. Maybe he could help. And Anakin told Obi-Wan the truth of his nightmares, of Padme dying in childbirth, similar nightmares to those of his mother that ended up coming true. The stench of fear coming from Anakin had become even more pungent as he concluded by telling Kenobi the truth, and Obi-Wan knew finding a solution was of utmost importance. Obi-Wan decides to tell Anakin that something only himself, Yoda, and Windu know, that Darth Sidious, the Sith Lord behind the Clone War, has been tracked back to Palpatine's bureaucratic office. That what Dooku told him years ago was true. Sidious was essentially in a leadership position of the Republic. This shocked Anakin. Could it really be true? But Obi-Wan told him that Palpatine telling Anakin about Darth Plagueis, a mysterious Sith Lord whom he had never heard of, that conveniently knew the exact power Anakin seeks, is very suspicious, and in his mind is confirmation that Palpatine is working with the Sith Lord Sidious. He's obviously trying to manipulate Anakin through Plagueis and his dreams. Anakin paused, too stunned to speak, but not for the reasons Kenobi thought. Kenobi thought he could pull Anakin to reason with his deduction of the situation, but Skywalker was too far gone, too full of fear and desperation to save Padme. What Obi-Wan had just revealed to Anakin was proof that Palpatine knew who Sidious was, and it could even be him. But this meant he could find Sidious and get him to teach him Darth Plagueis' ability, and finally, he can save Padme. Obi-Wan was caught off guard mid-thought, as Anakin used the Force to snatch his lightsaber, and before he could produce a verbal response, he was sent hurling across the room with a mighty Force push, and rendered unconscious by Anakin. Anakin left with only one location on his mind. He arrives at Palpatine's office to find him there alone.
Anakin, my boy, at this hour, what is it that you need?
I need the truth, Palpatine. I must know who Sidious is. I know you know, and I need his help.
His help, you say? Concerning what?
The power that Plagueis possessed. I need it, and fast. Can Sidious teach it to me?
The corners of Palpatine's mouth curl. He didn't think it would be this easy. He sensed no deception in Anakin's voice, only fear and desperation.
Of course, Anakin. I can teach you.
So it is you.
Yes, but to learn my power, you must first delve deep enough into the depths of the dark side. Can you do this?
Show me how, and I'll do it.
Palpatine's mouth flattened, and his tone grew serious.
We must destroy the Jedi traitors before the attempt to take over the Senate. We will storm the Jedi Temple, and only after the death of the light side is so great will your strength in the dark side be strong enough to learn my master's teachings.
I pledge myself to your teachings, Master.
Anakin got on one knee, and he believed he had discovered the key to saving Padme.
Rise, Lord Vader. We will bring peace to the galaxy.
Palpatine laughed internally. The boy really was a fool. Anakin tells Palpatine about Kenobi, revealing what he did, and knows he will go and tell the Council, and come to the conclusion that Anakin had joined the Sith. Palpatine turned. His plans were not yet complete. He had hoped to send Yoda off-world, but it's too late. They must act now. Palpatine sends an urgent transmission to Utapau, commanding General Grievous to bring himself and the remainder of the Separatist forces to Coruscant for a second invasion. But Grievous himself will travel to the surface to aid in the destruction of the Jedi Temple. Meanwhile, Kenobi wakes up as the memories of the past come back to him one at a time. Anakin. No, he must save him before he does anything stupid. He runs towards the council chambers and arrives to see Agen Kolar, Windu, Yoda, Kit Fisto, and Saisi Tin, the only members present on the planet. But as Kenobi passes through the door, and the Masters see the distressed look on his face, they all sense it. The echo through the Force.
Execute Order 66.
They all fall to their knees as they sense the death of the light side of the Force throughout the galaxy. They look out through the chamber's windows at the sky above, which has burst into hellfire, representing the Separatist attack and General Grievous' second invasion.
Masters, it's Anakin. I fear he's joined Sidious. They're the ones behind this.
Are you sure, Master Kenobi? How do you know?
Palpatine convinced Anakin that the dark side is the only way to save his wife, Senator Amidala, from the death that he sees in his nightmares, false premonitions that he believes are the future.
They all stare at him shocked.
Then who is the Sith Lord, Master Kenobi? Is it Palpatine?
Matter, it does not. Defeat the Sith we must.
And Kenobi, that now includes Skywalker.
Windu darts at him with a commanding look on his face.
I understand, Master.
Meanwhile, Anakin and Palpatine storm the Jedi Temple, alongside Grievous, who's left his fleet above the planet. Anakin questions needing Grievous there, but Palpatine tells him that they need his assistance to take out the traitorous Jedi. But after that, his fate is undecided. Together, the three of them start attacking Jedi in the foyer. Grievous starts brutally attacking Jedi, and Anakin matches him in number. Palpatine makes mincemeat of Padawans and Knights, but he's preparing for the real challenge he knows awaits. Out of the corner of his vision, he sees Kit Fisto and Agen Kolar into the foyer, and he calls Anakin over.
Skywalker, this is your real test. Kill the Masters, and you will unlock the power to save your wife.
Anakin stands determined as the two Masters approach.
Skywalker, how could you do this to us?
I wouldn't expect you to understand.
Anakin attacks first, and he berates the Master with an unrelenting fury. Kolar was known to be one of the greatest swordsmen in the Order. However, Anakin was better. The rise in power he experienced after accepting the dark side allowed him to see Kolar's attacks before they came. But even better, He could plan his attacks before Kola could even defend. The Force granted him this power, and he used it to thrust his saber through the Zabrak's chest, ending his life. Anakin turned to his left to see Palpatine had cut Fisto in two. Grievous had carved down Sicey Tin before he could join the fight, and they begin moving deeper in the temple. Palpatine motioned towards the youngling's quarters, which would test Anakin's resolve. He could sense his connection to the dark side, and thus power, and understood he was at the point of no return. The three entered the youngling quarters to see Yoda, Windu, and Obi Wan defending the children against the clones. Palpatine smiles at the Jedi and orders clones to rush in to attack. The three masters bear a look of shock. Palpatine really was Darth Sidious, and he had been all these years. Palpatine had waited for this very moment and was savoring it all in. But Kenobi bore a look of disappointment at Anakin.
This isn't you, brother. Palpatine's manipulating you. We can help. The Jedi never helped me, but now I can help myself.
Kenobi's duty set in. He sensed the darkness inside Anakin. There was no return. He had to kill Anakin here, but before he could try, Grievous jumped at him with his 4 blades, sending Kenobi back into his Form 3 Sarisu defensive stance. Palpatine rushed forward, his red blade brandishing and darting directly at Windu's carotid pulse, whilst Yoda the Grand Master stood opposite Anakin.
Die you must, Skywalker, for your crimes against the Jedi.
You will regret underestimating me, Master.
Anakin and Yoda rushed at each other. In all his years of training, Anakin had never sparred Yoda. The opportunity had never come up. He had watched him spar many times. However, this would never prepare anyone for the relentless agility of his mastery of Form 4 Ataru. Anakin was forced into the defensive immediately, a state he did not enjoy, but the dark side spoke to him, guiding him through Yoda's movements as he defended, and found openings to attack, only barely missing his target. Anakin pressed on, gaining a better sense of Yoda's movements as the fight progressed, but Yoda stopped, opening his free palm as Anakin's vision went bright and he was temporarily blinded. Was this a trick? Had Master Yoda done this? And Anakin was right. A quick burst of Force energy had blinded Anakin. A move Yoda favored quite well. He knew it would render an opponent blind for 5 seconds, more than enough time to defeat Anakin. But once again, Yoda underestimated the Chosen One. After being blinded for 2 seconds, Anakin's eyes opened, his vision returned, and what occupied his vision was Yoda mid-jump, lightsaber drawn, and extremely vulnerable. Anakin connected to the Grand Master through the Force, and sent him flying back with the Force towards the back wall, and the Grand Master hit the wall with the force of 1,000 Star Destroyers. The back of his head cracked, his cerebellum taking the blunt of the blow, and his vision was dazed, his balance uneven, and before he could respond to the extraordinary attack that Anakin had pulled, he looked down at the sapphire blue blade that was piercing his abdomen. His eyes shot up, and his vision was filled with Anakin, but this wasn't the Anakin he had seen growing up, become a Padawan, a knight, and almost a master. This was something different. It wasn't even human. It was the dragon of the Chosen One. Yoda didn't feel pain as his life left him, only shame and disappointment that he had failed in his ultimate duty of protecting the Jedi Order. On the other hand, Anakin felt triumph. Yoda's defeat was a symbol that his power in the dark side was strong enough to unlock Plagueis' ability to save the one he cared about, Padme. It all started to make sense in Anakin's mind. He would have everything he desired, not because it was his destiny, not because of prophecy, but because he wanted it. Anakin's train of thought was cut off by an almighty scream, a scream that represented someone dying. His eyes darted instantly, however, his force projection travelled faster than that. He felt the identity of the deceased instantly before his eyes could look upon the body, and through this, his hope of saving Padme was shattered in an instant. Mace Windu had bested Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, in combat. His Vapard, a version of Form 7 lightsaber combat, had turned his own darkside power against him. But Anakin looked even further behind Windu to see Grievous was now a pile of droid parts, more disheveled and in pieces, to the point where he even doubted the 9-year-old slave from Tatooine could put them back together. And in mere seconds, Anakin's dreams were shattered. Palpatine dead, no way of learning the power of Darth Plagueis, and Padme's death certificate had essentially been signed, and the culprits were none other than Windu and Obi Wan that stood before him. His anger surged, and they fought. The battle was legendary. Obi Wan defended, whilst Windu attacked, and Anakin did nothing but attack. His desire for revenge so strong, it could be felt from Coruscant's syntax moons. But desire for revenge was not enough, especially against the two best remaining swordsmen of the Jedi Order. Kenobi started by cutting off Anakin's robotic arm, and Windu followed with the other, essentially leaving Anakin defenseless. Windu goes to finish the job, but Kenobi stops him. It wouldn't be the Jedi way to kill him unarmed. Windu thanks Kenobi, and he renders Anakin unconscious with the Force. Together the two Jedi help to defend the rest of the temple from the clones. However, it's no use, and they're forced to retreat. They group up with Bail Organa and explain what's happened to the Senate, that Palpatine attacked with Grievous and the Separatists, controlling both sides of the war, secure the Chancellor's office, and use the droids to sample all the required proof from his computers, which is presented to the Republic Security Council, who agreed to execute Order 65 for suspected treason. Through this, Palpatine is removed as active Chancellor, and thus stops Order 66, but the damage was done. The Jedi Order was destroyed, and Anakin was no longer the same person. The truth of Palpatine's treachery and plans to convert the Republic into the Galactic Empire came out in greater depth to the entire Senate, which justified the Jedi in defeating him. The delegation of 2000 temporarily took over the Senate until a new democratic election could be held. Over the coming weeks, the war came to an end. What 400 Jedi remained were under the command of the three remaining council members, Obi Wan, Windu, and Shaak Ti, and helped how they could with the surrender negotiations from the Separatists. Padme was distraught when she heard what Anakin had done, but also what had happened to him. As the truth came out, Anakin was sentenced to 20 years in jail for his crimes. Padme wasn't allowed to visit for the first year, as he was under Jedi supervision. The first year of Anakin's sentencing was filled with immense anger, hate, and fear. He couldn't sense the events that had happened. Was Padme alive? Had she given birth? He did not know. Kenobi never visited. He couldn't bear to see what had become of his apprentice. Padme visits after 1 year is up with their children Luke and Leia, and in this instant, Anakin realizes the depths of his mistakes. He apologizes to her for everything, that he journeyed the wrong path, and was a fool to be manipulated so easily. It would take time, but Padme would slowly forgive Anakin as they spent more time together, and she vowed to bring their children to Anakin every week so he could remain a part of their lives. Meanwhile, Windu had become Grand Master of the Order, and alongside Kenobi, had started to rebuild the Order. Kenobi argued for a lesser sentence for Anakin, that he would learn from his mistakes and can still be a Jedi, as many have come back from the darkness, including the new council member Master Voss. But Windu doesn't budge, at least for now. They both realize the Jedi's near defeat was a result of their blind obedience to the Senate, and are in conversation with the new Chancellor Mothma to change the legislation regarding this. However, he decides to go visit Anakin for the first time. As Kenobi arrives, he locks eyes with Anakin, and they both sit in silence. The silence echoing the tears shed, and they finally hug. No words needed to be spoken. If you enjoyed this video, you have to watch What If Darth Plagueis Trained Anakin Skywalker and What If Anakin Told the Council About Darth Plagueis. Don't forget to check out Fantasy Sabers for the best NeoPixel replica sabers on the market, as well as an assortment of Padawan sabers. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comments below, like and subscribe, and may the Force be with you.